Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the PWTorch Fireside Chat for August 4th, 2022. I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zack Heydorn here as always with the man, Tyler Sage. What's up, Tyler?
Hey, good to be here. Yeah, how's it going?
It's freaking August, man.
I know.
It's bizarre.
We started doing this in late March. I think the last Thursday or Friday, whenever the first one was in March. So appreciate everyone who has been here the entire time, and those who have jumped on the train, and those who are in the future watching this in posterity that are maybe trying to cancel Tyler for his inebriated comments when he saw Glenn Jacobs at the end of SummerSlam. I haven't got anything, so I know. But it's always 50-50 on that stuff. So I think I allude to my personal beliefs very well, but I'm open-minded to other people's opinions, and I'm not going to hate anyone for what they are, unless they're Glenn Jacobs. So
right. I mean, like, Glenn Jacobs is pretty darn, pretty. I think you were spot on.
Yeah. It's just like that's why you watch the live stream, right? Because when you, I had a couple of adult beverages. So it wasn't horrible, but when you wake up and you're like, was that what the really conservative in his brand appearance Tyler would have done? Probably not, but that's just Tyler shooting from the hip a little bit. So
hey, you know what, man? That's why we go live. You know what I mean? Like, we just keep it fresh. We had a blast, on over the weekend doing the live watch party for SummerSlam right here on PWTorch YouTube. Myself and Tyler and Sean Radican was here, and Robert Vallejo was here, and Joe was here from Fightful. So it was a blast. So you can check that out. It's on the channel right now. Would love you to watch all 4 hours of it, but of course, pick and choose. We had some different analysis along the way, and it was just a good time. And of course, before we go further, would appreciate you guys subscribe, tell a friend. We'd really appreciate that support, and thank you to those who are tuning in. Tyler, the one topic that just keeps blaring in my head this week in particular is Monday Night Raw, like the Triple H kind of like first toe dip into like the vision of Triple H's WWE creative. Before, I know he's been running the show for a week or so before that, but it was really Vince's vision. They had to build to a pay-per-view that Vince already built, and now it's fresh. Now it's open. And then in conjunction with that, we reported posted up on the site PW Insider report saying that Triple H has already made a major change in less scripting for both promos and for and in matches. And so, like, that's a lot of change pretty darn quick. And so let's start there. What did you think of Raw this week? Did it feel fresher? Did it feel different, or not?
Yeah, so to even backtrack just a second before I answer that question, on the VIP roundtable with Wade and Todd Martin and Rich Fan, Wade basically on air confirmed that the Becky Lynch face turn was not scheduled, and he confirmed that with a source. So, but yeah, just another example of the absolute speed that things are changing, and like my brain is still. It's gonna take a couple weeks. I think maybe if you take our conversation last week. I think that's more for at least my brain, because I can't only speak for myself, needing to readjust to a new era, as opposed to like, I was like, 6 months, we'll see how the WrestleMania build is. That I really tell you. And it's like, Ciampa is winning 2 matches to get a title shot. And there's less scripted on promos. Becky's turning face. People are being aligned the way they should. So yeah, I mean, way faster. So that big picture for me, which is always more important, I guess, from my perspective than the ins and outs of the show, is Vince has no power whatsoever from a creative, and I don't think Paul Levesque has any issue whatsoever in basically being like, here's the Paul Levesque way, and he's not going to go out there and say it, but through his actions, he feels very confident in rebutting a lot of the stuff he did not agree with Vince, and that tells me there's no sort of shadow puppeteer behind the scenes in Vince, and So I think that's important to acknowledge here. But on Raw itself, it's never going to change. We talked about it last week, but the 3 hours is still a huge slog, and it's very hard for me personally to consistently 52 weeks out of the year carve out 3 hours of my time live to watching that. But for me personally, my habits, I would rely on people like you and whatnot to tweet about it, know what's important, pop in, watch key segments, and talk about that. I think I've been pretty honest on here that I do not watch the 3 hours of Raw live. I think that could be confirmed by you. You're my co-host, so
Confirmed.
Maybe you knew that. Okay, yeah. So I don't make any bones about that, but I think this way is 3 hours live, unless it's like hot for all 3 hours, and that's gonna be tough. But watching it the next day, skipping through ads and maybe skipping through a segment or two that I don't want to watch is now more on the table for me as a viewer than it was 2 weeks ago. So I think that's a huge upgrade so far. Yeah, I'm more bullish than I was last week. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I think your thought there, like, hey, I'm more likely than I was before to give it a shot. My guess is that you're not the only one. Clearly you're not, because the rating came in big, massive, like more than I think anybody would have really imagined.
Yeah, because it was 2. Yeah, because 1.9 the first week that he was fully in control, and then what you said 2.02.
2.2.
2.2. I mean, yeah, that's 300,000 people.
I mean, that's a big, yeah. It's a big jump, and like we always talk about here on the show. It kind of like the show previous drives a lot of like the future. So clearly, like there's a lot of people that liked that first Triple H show that stuck around and grew, and then they had another really good show this week. So there's some momentum there. It's not going to be a home run every single week, but to your point, it's so important and refreshing, really, to see like some of these changes that have already been made, because it kind of takes you out of the mindset of, well, this is still Vince's thing, And I think that like kind of officially saying goodbye to that is important, because you do have a lot of fresh stuff happening on the show. Becky Lynch turning babyface. I mean, that's the biggest one. I mean, that's a huge pivot from where Vince McMahon was with Becky Lynch. And, I think it was done really, really well, like executed very well from SummerSlam to Monday Night Raw. Like I thought Becky was on point. She had great body language. She pulled it off. And it made perfect sense because the audience wants to cheer her. And at the same time, you didn't have to turn Bianca, because you got this new crop of women's talent coming in with Bayley's return, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. So it's, you didn't lose anything at all, because you have this now top heel in Bayley that's on the show. So I thought that was really well done. Like once you've decided already, hey, okay, let's go, we're going with this. We're going with Becky as a babyface again. The execution was also on point. And then like just Raw to me, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, especially when you watch it back or what you've seen already. It just felt looser. It felt just looser and more laid back, and not in a like unprofessional way, but just a little more where not everybody's wound so tight, and that goes from the announcers to the performers to everything. Like it just felt a little more laid back and a little more, hey, this is cool. Like we're kind of happy to be here. We're putting on a good show. And I think you could feel that as an audience member too, which is important.
Yeah. I mean, so like just to get a glimpse into, and I maybe use me as a example, as an anecdotal evidence of people that are maybe in and out on WWE over the past year or so. But yeah, I mean, I saw the stuff, the tournament happening to crown the #1 contender for the U.S. title. So yeah, I was around for most of the last hour because I saw what was happening there, especially when it was the Ciampa match, and then him taking on AJ in the main event. That's just a good match, and I have more confidence that there's going to be a finish now with stuff like that than I was in the past. Because before I'd be like, it's like I've fallen for this. Literally, how many episodes of Raw have there been? literally 1,000 times probably, like no, not even joking. Throughout the show, there's probably been 1,000 of those where you think something's going to happen and you get swerved. So that's a big deal. But yeah, I mean, and I agree 100%. I mean, just the promos, the announcers are the key on feeling loose for me, because that's who you hear the most on a broadcast. And yeah, It just doesn't feel so contrived and so much that like WWE is in a petri dish of 100% sanitized zone of Vince's corporate. It's basically living in Vince's brain for 3 hours, and that was just not something that was enjoyable for me as a viewer. And now it feels like more collaborative because people just get to kind of be their character, but just branch slightly and not worried about getting just totally destroyed for doing something off or coughing or sneezing backstage, whatever.
Don't you dare sneeze.
So, all that it's very visible, and that is even more so than the turns and the very easy things that are low hanging fruit there. It feeling more natural, everyone feeling like they're not miserable. You can just see it through the screen, and that's 60% of it for me. And the other 40 is all the stuff we talked about on top. But just like watching something where people like what they're doing is it's obvious to see. And it's like going somewhere where you go somewhere and obviously the staff hate their lives. They're obviously not making enough money. They're miserable, as opposed to a place where maybe the staff is happy. You can assume maybe they're getting paid more of a living wage or something. That is like, I always feel better going in those places than that's what WWE feels like now. Not the pay, but just the morale and the well-being. So
yeah. Good point. Everybody in the chat, what's going on? Steven, Bran, Dr. Ross, good to have you guys all here. What's up, Steven? There's some good stuff here. Dr. Ross, we'll start with you. I mean, there is an optimistic feeling around WWE right now, and there should be, right? I mean, I think there's for one thing, it's just fresh, and we don't know the end game of that in its entirety yet. But for now, it's pretty fun to watch a product where you're just not quite sure like what is going to change week to week with Triple H's kind of view and vision for the company. So that I think is driving maybe a lot of people like you to check out the show and to give Monday Night Raw a chance again, even if it's not for the 3 hours. Maybe they have 400,000 people that will check in and out depending on how things go or what they see. But this feeling of optimism, like how do you think that affects, if at all, AEW? Because so Tony Khan talked this week about, hey, yeah, the leadership change over there is going to, of course it's going to, not necessarily impact us, but affect them. Like, do you see Triple H kind of now using the power of the WWE machine, along with his vision that people clearly have liked in the past, to really kind of, I don't know, quote unquote, show Tony how it's done? Or are you kind of just, it's irrelevant?
Yeah, I mean, everything you have to take with, a grain of salt thus far, right? I mean, we're in the honeymoon phase of Paul Levesque's running of the company. Tony's kind of just ran out with the MJF stuff. I feel like it was a pretty good turning point, and when that sort of, he could do no wrong era for a lot of people switched over. So I think Paul Levesque's timeline is going to be much shorter. He's got maybe till WrestleMania 39 to kind of, before people start groaning about the things that he does over and over again. As human beings, we are creatures of habit, and it's hard for us to break certain things that we like. So if you were running a show, if I was running a show, we'd all have certain things that we do too much and people would respond to. So you have to wait to see what that reaction is in the future. But if I'm looking from the Tony Khan perspective, just in life in general, but especially in business and in wrestling promoting, I don't essentially take anything anyone says as any sort of validity for anything. But his actions are something to see. And with all the announced changes in the backstage structure at AEW this week, I do not think is just happenstance that it happened all of a sudden. I think
not an accident.
Christopher Daniels was basically doing a lot of that stuff. And, we saw with the Jonathan Gresham news that the Sanjay Dutt and QT Marshall have, been in that role as well. They're announced in that way. Madison Rayne coming in and taking control of the women's division that was essentially, I don't know. I mean, that was Kenny's thing originally. I don't know if you know. I think Dustin had a big part of that. Dustin Rhodes.
Did, yep.
So I think just getting that solidified, especially for someone in Triple H's stature who's a much better promoter of women's wrestling than Tony Khan has proven himself to be. I think that's a huge move there, and Tony's trying to solidify that aspect of the company there. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to, it's more, I think you had more of a short-term question of like Triple H showing him how it is to run a company. And I do think, that's the more, I don't know question. I don't know if, if I had to scale it, I would probably put that Paul Levesque as a, if you had a better promoter, if you could take out your brain and wash it of AEW, WWE bias, I would think Paul Levesque is a slight favorite on being a better wrestling promoter than Tony Khan is. But I think it's closer than I would have thought 3 years ago, obviously, with some guy I don't know versus Triple H. But it's long-term is the big question for me. And that is, how much control does Paul Levesque have to bring key people back that are in AEW now? And that's really where we can strike a blow. If it's, if it's the Ricky Starks, MJF, and somebody else are coming from AEW at some point, that's more of a Cody relation, but coming over there and becoming even bigger stars in WWE, that's a problem, because people that have come from WWE to AEW are not bigger stars in the zeitgeist of the pop culture and even the wrestling world, right? So that's something that is going to be a big win if he can do that versus that. But so yeah, that's my long.
That's a good point. I mean, that's a good point as far as the talent goes, because I think Cody is he left WWE, he made a big name for himself in AEW, but I think he's a bigger name today than he was, on his last day in AEW.
Yeah, sure.
Because of that it's hard to admit for some folks. I get that, but there is just a reality to the machine of WWE. If you're there and you're pushed, man, I mean, it's powerful. It's a powerful thing. And yeah, like if they do bring over MJF in particular, I think he's somebody that, will come across as a bigger star. Ricky Starks, another guy, but really anybody's on the table. Adam Cole's got a good relationship with Triple H. So does, the other members of the Undisputed Elite. Like, Triple H can sell the WWE product, because that's him. And so, can he get to a Wardlow? Can he get to Powerhouse Hobbs? Or, so you just don't know.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's not Vince McMahon over there is a key, because I think, the root of the quote unquote revolution of AEW, right? Like, it was very much it wasn't founded as a pushback to Vince McMahon, but it was an alternative to Vince McMahon, because Vince McMahon has been running that company for 40 years.
Yeah.
And now he's not. And so that is like the psychology of that now is different, because you're not playing, hey, us against Vince McMahon's WWE. It's just, hey, all right, now we're two wrestling promotions competing against each other in real time without really like a stigma yet for Triple H. And Tony Khan doesn't really have that built up yet either, because he's still very new to booking pro wrestling. But whereas you had all this history to play against for AEW, you have that kind of, but also kind of not, because Triple H's vision is going to be different. I think that's we'll be interested to see how Tony navigates that.
Yeah, for sure. And on the one subject I am thinking about as a performer, and like, where do I go? Obviously money is key. And
totally.
So that's a huge deal. If WWE is going to overpay for people, then Tony's done that much of a chance to retain everyone he can select. It's like a small market Major League Baseball team versus the Yankees, right? If they want to play it that way, which I don't know if they will. But the other thing is, like, just from the outside, and that's where we are. Like, if you see the way Tony Khan acts some of the time, and the way Paul Levesque acts, at least on social media and press tours, whatever, like I love AEW, and I've enjoyed the product ever since the inception. And I like what they're doing to the industry by being around. And I'll get to that broader point here after this. But like, I'd rather work for Paul Levesque from the outside if I'm a professional. And like, I feel like if like, I don't know, there's just lots of things there. He has a better vibe, I would think, as a promoter that I would choose. And that is kind of surprising. Obviously, I pick work for Tony over Vince. Before that. But so that all that to be said is like, this is what I wanted when AEW came about, is this conversation this week in wrestling where you have a solid episode of Dynamite. It feels like things are building in the right direction, and I've always enjoyed the product overall. It felt a little weird there for a couple months, but like also I'm excited about what's going on in WWE. Like I'm excited about the Royal Rumble. I'm excited about WrestleMania next year. I'm excited about, you know, a stadium show in the UK. Like I think I know the result of the main event, but like I'm excited. Maybe Sasha Banks comes back, and like that's like it feels good to know that there are two viable wrestling companies for the first time since 1997. Like that's what it feels like right now. And obviously the WWE is viable, but it was just so lacking in my personal enjoyment from a minute by minute standpoint compared to the other one. And now I feel like there's a potential where, you know, I could be watching 10 hours of wrestling a week and be totally happy with that, as opposed to watching, you know, 7 and being kind of bummed out at half of that time. So, and some of that's Rampage, but that's beside the point. But
yeah, man. Well, yeah. I mean, it is going to be an exciting time without question. Bryant, thanks for joining. We'll get to your questions here in a second for sure. Good stuff. So we will get there. So hang with us. One thing that stood out to me this week on Raw in particular, which I think is a good move. I don't know. The Becky Lynch move is obviously one of the best moves I think you could have made. But this move too, I think, is going to help the show so much, which is framing that secondary title, the United States Championship, as important, as really important. You had a video package kind of talking about the lineage and the history of that title. You had a lot of promo time about it. You had 3 segments of in-ring action dedicated to it. That is going to give the show itself like the correct like hierarchy that it doesn't have, or that it didn't have a week ago without the Universal Championship there, without Roman Reigns there holding the belt. And I think if you get to a point where it's like Roman's up here, your IC champion on SmackDown here, and your United States champion on Raw down here, like that is going to be interesting to follow, you know, because it's going to make Roman Reigns feel like a huge deal when he's on television, but it's not going to take away a key storyline piece, which is a singles championship on the show for these guys to chase after. So I'm curious as to how SmackDown's going to look with the IC title and what they're going to do there on Friday. But that to me is the start of something. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that continue, because I mean, it really, if they can do it successfully, it'll elevate the Universal title even more, because it'll be very, very special. And when you win that, like, you're the guy. But it also won't hurt the show either for that title not being there, because you've got your other title. So I like that too. And if that's a Triple H thing, thumbs up.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's not. I doubt that. This felt kind of out of the blue in comparison to the regular programming in recent weeks. Yeah. And yes, I forgot to bring that up in my sort of analysis / commentary, that I was very much enjoying the main event and the story between having 2 matches to get to the number 1 contenders match later on in the episode. So yes, making that title the focal point was key in that. And yeah, I think having that triangle that you described, at least visually with your hands, of Roman at the top and then the US and Intercontinental Champion, and having people fight for things, is a way for, you know, at least through WrestleMania, if it's going to be either Cody or The Rock or whoever is going to be the one maybe to take it off of Roman. I think having Roman run up until that point is key, in having the US and the Intercontinental titles be those titles presented in a way that is important is a valuable way to do that, for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is. And I think Yeah, you know what? It'll be interesting to see how Triple H books Roman too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's not his guy, but he's clearly the biggest star the company has. I don't think there's any real argument there. But so it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. Let's get to Brian's questions here because he's got some good ones. So the first one, given how over and well booked the women's tag match on Dynamite was, do you think women's tag titles may be coming at some point? Well, Tyler, more championships. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if it's AEW and the question is about more titles, I'm going to always lean in the direction of yes, there will be more titles. The timing seems odd because it seems like in Tony Khan's little red book of booking or whatever he uses, it's a new title will be presented at every pay-per-view in perpetuity, right? Is kind of what it seems like. So we already have a new title.
More belts, Steve said.
We have another. We got the trios title at All Out, so. I guess Full Gear in November, we could have the women's tag title would be the tournament to fight to. Yes, I'm deadpanning this answer for you as I tend to do, but yeah, I mean, I don't need it. I'd like the women's championship to feel important before we make tag team title. I'd like someone to have a real story with Jade that is probably in that match to have like a title shot at All Out that feels more impactful than just throwing another piece of gold, a beautiful belt. They're all beautiful belts in AEW, but
gorgeous.
They all kind of look the same too, but that's beside the point. But like before doing that, I'd like, Jade and Thunder Rosa both to have impactful storylines and have solid matches at All Out before I just add more titles to give people something to do, because that is not the solution to the problem. But I think we'll see it. Is my answer. So.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna. God. I guess, Brian, to answer your question, yes, I think they're probably. I mean, I agree with Tyler that they're on the horizon at some point, but they should hold. They should hold off. I mean, they just absolutely should. For one thing, there's just too many titles on the show, too many belts. As gorgeous as they look, the ROH titles are there too, as Steve mentions here. Like, great point, Steve. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. It's just too much. They've got a lot of talent, but I mean, if you run through like who the tag teams could be in the women's division right now today, that would feel natural. You've got Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. You've got Thunderstorm.
And yeah, I was there last night. So on Elevation, that tape before, the Ruby Soho and Sky Blue were a tag team.
Okay, but
I know that's kind of the third tier tag team right now because they were the only other women's tag team that were presented on the show, and obviously Elevation is like a what's going to happen is people winning on that. Like Mance Warner won on Elevation against Serpentico, so obviously he's got a shot. I think is Dark Elevation on Thursday, so he'll have a match on Rampage. So he'll win a match on YouTube to then get a title shot against Jon Moxley. Is kind of the idea there, but
Elevation, that's weird because Elevation's on Monday.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe there you go. Maybe he's getting rehabilitated after his loss to Jon Moxley.
yes. True. But the thing is, it's like, okay, you said it. So Ruby Soho and Sky Blue, if that's your third team and half of that team nobody knows, that's not a deep enough roster to have tag team titles.
Yeah.
I know you could piece people together, right? Yeah. You could put Jade Cargill with one of the baddies.
Well, yeah, because Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray also had a tag match.
So, right. So you could do that.
You could do Anna Jay and Ty Conti too, but like none of these are good. You can throw the buddy with somebody, but yeah.
This is the thing. It's like, and then not only that, but you take these talents away from the other belts that you also need to build, and that also just aren't framed perfectly yet.
Yeah.
So So it's, I don't know, Brent. I hope they don't. I just hope they don't. It's just too much. It's too much, and the ROH thing even impacts that even more. Bryant, your second question here. Do you think Sasha Banks going back to WWE is a certainty, or is there still a window for Tony Khan to make a play for her? I'll take this one first and go, yeah, I think it's pretty much a certainty. And it's not because I wouldn't want to see her in AEW, and it's not because I don't think Tony Khan will try to make a play. But look, I mean, the business of Sasha Banks right now is pretty darn big. I think she's got like visions and kind of aspirations outside of wrestling and outside of WWE, and she's close to Triple H. Like we know this, and so when you put all that together and you put together the access to outside opportunities that Banks is going to be looking for, money that she's going to be looking for, and a safety blanket in Triple H, that's just, I don't think she passes that up. I just don't think she passes that up. Even if the money's equal, the money's the same, there's more on the table for her, business wise in WWE because of just the massive platform that they have right now. So I'd be shocked actually, if she's in AEW anytime soon, just because I just think the stars align for her here, to make a lot of money and to work for somebody that she knows and respects, and for a company that can give her the platform that she's clearly looking for to continue to grow. But what do you think, Tyler? Am I off base?
No, I agree. I think, I guess if I'm going to put myself in the shoes of Sasha Banks here, I would need to be paid probably 1.5 times more at AEW. If let's say I'm getting $2 million a year from WWE, I probably need to make $3 million at AEW, or maybe 2.5, 2.75. I'd be really thinking about it. But also, if I'm Tony Khan, I don't know if it's, there's lots going on with Warner Discovery, the parent company of TNT and TBS. They're eliminating movies to cut budgets, things like that. But if I'm Tony Khan and I have some sources there at the mid-level, and I'm like, hey, if I can get this huge star that's going to add 100,000 viewers a week in 6 months to my product here for you, is there a way to pre-sign her to a deal to make her a star in a DC, make her the star of a DC show or movie or whatever? And like, you have to bring multiple things like that to her to kind of tie into what she wants to do. You have to give her less of a, less schedule. Maybe she works half the year, and she's the other half of the year she's doing her outside the work things, and you transition her to that stardom, and you reap those benefits of her coming back feeling like a big star for big events, which I don't know if, I don't have anything to say he doesn't, but I don't know if Tony, I would think that Tony doesn't go that all out to get Sasha into AEW personally. And I think it's just the path of least resistance, the opportunities you talked about, the good pay, working with Paul Levesque, in an environment she knows too. Like if you leave somewhere and you can go where that you already have an email, you got an employee number, like half the people there already. Much easier than going somewhere completely new for a little bit of bump in pay too. If maybe that boss you hated got fired. So,
and the other thing too that I'd say is, like, I say this with all the respect in the world because pro wrestling, it is a business. Like I think you should want to make the most money first. I think this period, you're using your body, you have a small window, you got to make the most money. And to me, that would overshadow the art, of it. And I think I just get the sense, like, by watching Sasha Banks talk, her interview with Steve Austin in particular, talking about how she's a business and she's a brand and all that. I think that's where she is, like, that this is a business. Yeah, she enjoys it, but I don't get the sense that she's like going to take a Bryan Danielson approach where it's like, hey, I'm cool with the pay or whatever. I just want to be able to do my thing in the ring, and I want to wrestle these new people. I don't know that that's not there. I think Sasha would she love a match with Thunder Rosa or Britt Baker, Tony Storm in AEW? Probably. But I don't think that there's anything there for her that would overshadow just the business part of it. I just don't sense that she's in that same. I don't think she has that same mindset that Danielson does, and she's a lot younger, of course, so she's got a lot more years to go here. But I think she's business first
for sure. I mean, look at her family. Like Snoop Dogg is her uncle, her shoot uncle, right? Okay, not like a gimmick like family.
No, shoot.
Okay,
shoot,
okay. So I mean, just look at that. I mean, like if that's your uncle, like you telling me he's not going to give you advice of like why you only making. Like he's like, I got gin, I got Corona ads, I'm doing $1,000 cameos. Like he's like the king of, just licensing yourself, being a brand, making a ton of money. Like if you're, if you see that in your life and you can do the same thing, you are just as talented and beloved by a segment of the audience, and that you would transition to being a bigger star everywhere else. I mean, it's just it seems just like obvious in our personal life that's there. And I think it's just like kind of different people are built differently, right? Like if John Moxley wanted to have a personal brand and be an action star or whatever, like I could totally see him doing that, but he just wants to go in there and wrestle, and he loves pro wrestling. Like Dax Harwood the same way. I mean, I don't know if I feel the same. I think like Kenny Omega would rather, he likes wrestling and loves, obviously he's great athlete performer, but like if he could have his own video game studio and do stuff like that, I think he has more passion for that, or at least as much passion for that. So it just depends on the person, right? I mean, I'm on here. I don't watch all 3 hours of Raw live. So some people would probably question my passion of watching wrestling, but I just I just can't do it personally. So, you are the John Moxley. I am the Sasha Banks is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Well, I mean, but you're right. I mean, look, like it is very much the person. And it's like, don't get me wrong, Bryan Danielson's getting paid handsomely, I'm sure. But I just, to your point, it's just, she's got that around her, and she's in her prime, the prime of her career to make the most money that she can. And it's like, I don't blame her at all. Same thing with MJF. It's like, sure, man, I get it that maybe artistically it's better for you to be in AEW. But dude, like if they're offering you, a good chunk of change, you're not, I wouldn't be turning that down at this point in his career, because, you got to make the money when you can get it. And I think that's where Sasha is. And Steve brings up a good point here too. Look, the Sasha Banks brand is anchored in Sasha Banks, and going to AEW as Mercedes Varnado only clouds that. That's true. That's very true. I think that's, I don't know, a really important note, Steve. Thank you. Because the Sasha Banks name, that's recognizable, like it just is. And not that she can't get Mercedes Varnado over, and not that it would totally derail any kind of momentum that she wants outside of wrestling. But, Sasha Banks is a key brand name. And it'd be like, it's like, this is not a great example because he's such a massive star, but it didn't happen overnight. How long did it take folks to kind of break The Rock away from Dwayne Johnson?
I was thinking you're say Bryan Danielson for Daniel Bryan.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
But
The Rock. He's The Rock again. Like he brought it back. Like he tried to be Dwayne Johnson, and he couldn't get away from it, for good or bad. Like I think for good, but as soon as he did Fast 4, it was like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I think it was the first time since, like the what's the Mummy 2 or whatever, his Mummy movie where he was like his own prequel where he was Dwayne Johnson. But I mean, it's like so many. I mean, it'd be like if Charlotte Flair left AEW and left WWE, went to AEW, she'd be like Ashley, right? She'd be like Cody, like she couldn't even use her last name. They definitely would not allow her to use the Flair last name because that's tied to
definitely not.
So she'd be Ashley. Like how weird would that be?
Super weird. Yeah, and something that I just don't think she would do.
Yeah, so that's like those brands are tied, especially, and that's why I think the names still being put on people is going to be key from even a Nick Khan perspective, more so than a Paul Levesque situation. But I think that if anything, that's and we don't need to get into MJF subject here because you brought it up, but just like
I know it's my fault.
If I'm WWE, right, and I'm thinking of my business, if I probably know what he makes right now, right? If I'm even 1% good at business, I know what he makes through sources. And then I'm probably gonna be able to find out what Tony Khan is offering him, or if he even wants to. Like if he's burned that bridge, like why would you pay MJF more than you have to? Like that's one thing I think people should look out for here is like how to not make a ton of money. Like if Tony Khan's gonna offer him maybe $1 million to resign, let's say, I don't know what the number is. Well, if you're WWE, why would you offer him more than $1,000,001 or something? Like I would not be offering double and just like play that game. So just something to look out for. I don't know if we'll see that. I think they might be so desperate to get him to kind of get another big star in there, but like, yeah, just something to look out for. So you don't need to comment on that unless you want to, but
no, I mean, it's a good point. They won't. They won't. But it's about like, it's about more than just, look in professional sports, right? Like you got guys that are making $326 million for 10 years, but then the next guy gets signed and he's holding out because he really wants $332 million.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can do with $332 million that you can't do with $326 million. And it's like, but it's that respect factor,
Yep.
And so maybe it is something where it's like, well, WWE's offering me $100,000 more, and I'm going to take that because that's what you just don't know. But it's a good point though. Like, and I think WWE is smart. They'll know the value, and they'll also know what what they can get out of them. Like, so that's good, really good point.
But if I'm him, I take like a 2-year deal, and then I try and make myself even bigger there, and then see if I can go back to AEW and have Tony Khan pay me what he thought he should have paid me. Yeah. He's so young. He'll be what, 27,
I think. Yeah.
When he's up. So if you do a 2-3-year deal, you're 30, 31, 4-year deal. Like, anyway, that's enough MJF talk, I guess.
All right.
Sorry.
Craig, thanks for joining us, man. Great to hear from you. Hope all's well. I don't think she can. It depends on the just kind of the trademark that WWE owns. And so I don't know what the detail is, but it's certainly dependent on that. And like if pieces of the Sasha Banks name are also owned by WWE within that trademark, she'd have a problem with that. And I know, currently she's booked for is it C2E2 here? Yeah. In Chicago, I think this weekend actually. And it's not Sasha. It's like former WWE star Sasha Banks in quotes, and with a little TM, at the bottom for trademark, and then Mercedes Vernado is the name. So, hey, hopefully that answers your question, Craig.
Yeah,
appreciate
and
you joining us, man.
They could always get cute and have her be Sasha, maybe with a $sign for the old boss gimmick.
Right.
Or spell it with a C or spell it differently. But that's like way, good value brand wrestling right there. That's like very, I don't know. That is not what I would want to do if I was a brand. If I was AEW, I would not want to give her the bootleg version of her name and have her come out there. Right. I'd rather her be Mercedes. I know that's not what Craig was saying. But for anyone else that like is thinking of that as an option, I personally would be against that, just from a brand perspective, unless I'm like an independent promotion. But
right, no, yep, absolutely, yeah, because you want look, if you sign Sasha Banks, like you want to pivot the recognition of her to your brand, just like Jon Moxley, right? Like now is Dean Ambrose is a long lost memory. It's Jon Moxley, and that's synonymous with AEW, and you'd want to have the same type of thing with Sasha. Speaking of AEW, let's pivot there. Well, I know we haven't been talking about it already, but keep the questions coming, guys, in the chat too. We will we'll pause our discussion and pivot to you if anything's on your mind. You were in the building last night, and you were on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling podcast or Pro Wrestling Post Show yesterday, but I'm curious about a couple things.
Okay.
the one being, and this is just totally random, like certainly not the most important topic coming out of the show, but was there any kind of like mention in the building or chatter in the building about FTR?
Yeah, so they came out before the show aired.
Really?
So Tony Khan did his pump up the crowd like 7 minutes before 8 o'clock, and was like, "Hey, great to be here the first time. You guys are great." All that stuff. Had his leather jacket on, not his leopard jacket on.
Wow.
So for Tony Khan, clothing watch Twitter,
stepping it up.
Yeah. I guess he thought it was gonna be cold in Ohio. I don't know, but so anyway, yeah, he did that, and he's like, "Hey, but I got 2 great champions. I want to come out and talk to you and introduce FTR." They had their entrance music. They were on the stage with all of their title belts, and they did like first it was Cash, and then it was Dax, but they did probably 3 or 4 minutes hyping the crowd and explained why they wouldn't be wrestling tonight because they were not medically cleared, even though they worked the Ric Flair show, which is funny. They said we're not cleared this week, but we're excited to get back in wrestling next week. So look out for a match with them maybe next week or something. But just did a good FTR promo that wouldn't have made sense, but like it was definitely just like a house show. Hey, we're here. We love you. We love wrestling, and they got a big pop. And that's, I think without that there would have been kind of a question of where they are, but they came out and did that.
Because that's what I was thinking on TV when I'm watching the show. I'm like, dude, how is FTR not on the show? Like, and they were, I don't know. I want to see Tony Khan pivot in their direction with the booking. I think they've got something. Go.
And one thing on what they said live, which I think pivots to, I don't know, because I guess the Bucks are, Cash stopped in the middle of a promo, saw a sign that said FTR is better than the Young Bucks, and he read it out loud, and the crowd cheered for FTR. So I don't know if that was anything leaving crumbs, or he just thought it was funny, and maybe there's a little bit of a mini rivalry between the two groups, and he knew they were listening. But so keep that in mind. But that got a huge pop from the live audience as well. So,
well, that's important. I mean, because I think you'd be silly not to go that way. You know what I mean? Like I know you're doing this trios thing right now, and this is exactly why I'm not a fan of the trios stuff, because it's like it's taking away key people that would be challenging maybe for the tag titles, and the Young Bucks in particular. And so I think it's stealing from that, and I think you'd be silly not to build to this epic kind of Young Bucks versus FTR trilogy match. I mean, that could headline a pay-per-view, and it could certainly headline a big episode of Dynamite. And I just don't get the sense that Tony's feeding that FTR momentum. I think he should be.
Yeah, I mean, the vibe I'm getting from watching is that obviously Tony Nese and Josh Woods are going to be challenging Swerve and Our Glory. Obviously, Swerve and Our Glory are going to win that. Yeah. I don't think they're going to drop the titles on the pay-per-view. That would be kind of anathema to what Tony Khan's done with titles in the future. So it seems like maybe they would lose it on a branded episode of TV in between pay-per-views to FTR. And then you have FTR or the Bucks get it back maybe because they're the ones they lost in a triple threat match. They didn't get pinned. I think Starks got pinned in that match, if I recall.
He did. Yep.
So, you could tell that story, and then you get the Bucks to win there, get their titles back, do Bucks FTR at Revolution. So I think you could still go there, but that's like the last. You got to really strike. I agree with you on this FTR. Them winning. I mean, depending what you're who's champion, whatever. Like that could be the main event. I know they don't like to go against the world title not going on last, but that feels like you can even make it a triple threat. Bring the Briscoes in, do a ladder match. I mean, that can be a main event anywhere in the world, not as a joke. So
no question.
They got to strike on that for sure.
They do. They really do. Because it's not just because I like FTR. It's because there's business there. I mean, there's money to be made right now with them, and I think maybe you have to pivot on some stuff, but that's part of the deal. It's part of being part of booking the territory, right? So we got this trios thing going on. it sounded like Adam Page got a big pop coming out with the Young Bucks. Pop of the night. I haven't listened to you on the show yet, so if I'm repeating myself, just say, "Hey Zach."
No, you're
pull a Jade Cargill and say, "Hey Zach, cut the shit."
I mean, I was on for like an hour. It was more of a roundtable last night than I thought.
Okay,
which is fine. But yeah, no, I think you can go back and listen. I did like a top 5 babyface pop hierarchy. I think I had Page at 1.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah, it was a huge pop, so it worked really well with the segment for the live audience. So,
is Adam Cole getting any heat?
No, I mean, this is more of a thing I had as a general when I first hopped on, as my general note of, probably my criticism first and then my positive things later. It's kind of how I unfortunately do things. But like, especially being there live and putting yourself, like seeing people that are not watching weekly, people that are more casual fans. I broke it down as probably 30% of people that were in that building are like pretty hardcore fans, buy every pay-per-view, watch almost every bit of content on TV. Right. And maybe 70 are people that watch Dynamite 2 or 3 times a month and have gotten most of the pay-per-views, or even like people that are WWE fans that are dabbling and seeing what this is all about, like that sort of zone of fan. And everyone loves to do the Adam Cole baby, boom, all that stuff. But like for fans that, I think like you and I did it. It's fun, but then you boo him as prompted to because you're like trying to enjoy the show and he's all that stuff. But like the more casual fan, I would say in that scenario, I think has a hard time transitioning so much. And that is not just Adam Cole. I mean, that was almost everybody on the show. Jericho is the same way. Like AEW presentationally live leans in way too much on those positive reactions for heels. And I guess maybe it was just the way the show was lined up. But Christian got not cheers, but like the respect of being a veteran. Like, it was just obvious that people are not totally dialed into every horrible thing he's done lately. I'm trying to think who else was on the show, but like really, Powerhouse, like when he won, people were like cheering because they're like, "Oh, this guy's awesome now." Like, and that there's like that fine line of like, "Hey, we're really excited for you, the human being," but like the character, like we need to boo you more than cheer you when you destroy a guy, because you're going to turn face that way. So like just systemically, the live experience was like, both these guys' chance was basically the vibe the whole night. And I think that in the long run is not super healthy.
I don't either. I sense that I sensed that big time at Forbidden Door. And it was a different type of show. I get that, but the outcomes of the matches did not matter. Like they did not matter. It was like, oh, we want to see a cool Will Ospreay match. Yeah. That's it. I like vividly remember like trying to kind of like looking around, and after the Will Ospreay match in particular, with people just going like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted." And it's like, dude, the heel just beat up like our guy, like you know what I mean? Like I don't know that you want that long term. It just doesn't create investment in the characters. I think you'll still have a hot show and you'll still have a hot crowd most nights out, but if you want to create investment in like what the stories that you're telling, you almost have to take away like some of that. That's why I've been critical of Adam Cole. It's like, dude, like better. Like I mean, he knows better than like, hey, I'm gonna be this heel, but I'm also gonna like do all these things that the audience really enjoys. He knows better than that, and I think he's got to go there. I think if he really, really wants to matter.
Yeah, I mean, he easily. You steal from like Tommaso Ciampa, right? Like he cuts a promo a week before, and he says like, no more Adam Cole baby's dead. I'm not coming out to any of this crap. I'm tired of hearing your voices. Yep. And then he walks out to no music. You don't have to have the crowd call him asshole the whole way down, but like he comes out, he like flips off a fan, whatever. Like he could do it. He knows how to do it. But like you do that once, and just like, and the Jericho thing is a big problem for me too, because he's like similar from a ego standpoint. Like who doesn't love being cheered, right? I mean, that's like a hard thing to break. But like some weeks, Cool Hand Angelo Parker is his name.
They blend together.
No, Matt Parker and Cool Hand Angelo something. But like one of them will, because they're like, hey, stop, you don't deserve to sing tonight, and that gets huge boos, and that's great. Like that's what you should do. Like you have the music and you have the heels cut it off and all that stuff. Like it's so easy to do. Not that you want everyone to have that same gimmick, but like some acts need to not be sing-alongs with the crowd. You need to be like, you need to get that real heat, because if I came and paid money to sing Judas with Jericho in the ring and he cuts me off, I'm going to be pissed as a more casual fan who was kind of Magic Daddy Magic Angel. But yeah, we can combine
Daddy Magic. Thank you.
But they just little things like that would be, I think, so crucial. It's like the Acclaim, them turning face makes a lot more sense, because that was
more sense.
The most over thing they were doing, and that totally positive notes on that angle. But like, if not, they needed to stop doing that. So, but yeah, I can answer Azan's Jay Lethal question quickly.
Azan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, Zach, you tell me, you watched it live, but I would say tepid was Jay Lethal's reaction. Him winning was surprising to people who didn't know he had a title shot lined up against Wardlow. So
it was surprising. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but I mean, he had to win if he's gonna even be the last 2 minutes before he gets powerbombed, as opposed to getting powerbombed immediately, sort of thing. It's like is that booking? But I don't think there's much. Like, I was asked on the post show by Bruce Hazelwood, like, were fans talking about Jay Lethal and his allegations from the speaking out movement and whatnot, and I was like, very bluntly, like, I just don't think people have there's just no buzz around Jay Lethal as a character. And if he was more popular, he probably would not be working, because there'd be more people like calling for him not to be working. I would think. So his like sort of niche audience and not really getting over huge in AEW is kind of helping him not have to deal with those sort of things, is my take.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right. Tepid is the best way to put it. So which is like, it's good and bad. I mean, I don't think you want that type of story to like fly under the radar. Like, you just don't. From just a human perspective. Yeah. If you take that out though, and you just look at it from a booking perspective too, it's like I don't think that's you're going to have this championship match on Battle of the Belts 3, and that, like, it's just not. I don't think it's worthy of that. I don't think that's what like is going to draw people's eyes to Wardlow versus Jay Lethal. It's just not going to do it. It's just not going to do it. You got to, if you want to have that match and be serious with it, like, Jay Lethal needs a little more heat behind him, to be frank. Take Craig's question here. What was the reaction to the music video? I'm assuming
we're talking about their rap, like the Vince McMahon line in the rap. Is that what we're talking about, Craig, or something else?
Yeah, Craig, give us just which video you're talking about.
Because live you don't get many videos. So if it was not like their rap, then there might not be anything there for me to talk about, unfortunately.
Oh, so you didn't get any of the videos?
I mean, we got some. So we did that on the post show. Like, I saw the Darby video, I saw the Sammy and Ty Conti video, I saw an Eddie video, I think.
So did you see the pre-produced Acclaimed video?
No, we're not talking about the one on Rampage that set up the match tonight, are we? Because there's no other video besides that. Was last week on Rampage, but I didn't see any videos from the Acclaimed.
Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, Craig. What did you think?
I'm sure it'd have been great. I mean, I love the Acclaim personally, and they were way over. I'm sure this comparison's been made, and just as an act, I don't even like making this comparison, but they feel like they feel like Enzo and Cass when they first came up to the main roster without all the baggage. But like they've, yeah. But I did that video is okay. I like them more live than the videos themselves personally. But I think they are way over the crowd in this capacity, and I think they've shown the capacity to alter and change things to stay relevant, not just do the same gimmick for 2 years straight. So I think they had a really good pop last night. The match itself, I thought, was kind of a dud, especially when you saw the packing peanuts in some of those spots. You could see it, live.
It was garbage. It was garbage.
Yeah. But I think their entrance is big, and now they just need to work on getting more heat in the ring itself with their.
Well, and like you said, they're aligned properly now. Like, if they're going to go out and do that stuff, and you got to be baby faces. Yeah. And that was a smart pivot on Tony Khan's part, or whoever. Okay, let's finish up with some questions here. We'll do some rapid fire questions. Make sure we get everybody that's in the chat. First and foremost, Steve says, what do you think about the chance that FTR, if cleared, defends the IWGP tag titles on the final night of the G1? I would put that at, like, when is the final night of the G1? August, like, 17th or something like that?
That sounds right. 19th, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So I would say 30% yes, 70% no. And the reason why I would say that is just, I don't think Tony Khan is going to, if they're cleared, like, I don't think you want to risk them going somewhere else and not wrestling for their home promotion first. Then you add into the fact that it's Japan and there's, all sorts of, like, it's just, that's a long trip, I would just say unlikely. And I don't know that they've got clear challengers over there either. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I think the G1 final, again, it's all about that last match. I don't think you need to book it as a major event like they kind of tend to do. You could have the number one contenders match for that and set them up for whatever, the first, I don't know, their pay-per-view structure going into, they kind of changed the names at the back end, but
they added one too.
Yeah. Whoever is trying to take the G1 case from somebody on the next pay-per-view, whoever wins it will get a challenger from someone that beat them in the tournament. But you could have it on that show if it lines better with their schedule. But I don't think so. But it could. Yeah, I think 30 is a pretty good option there. I would not think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be totally shocked either.
That's right. That's why I've got,
Or you could just have them take on House of Evil and not really work anything and do a 20-minute match where they just get, like, poked in the eyes and
God, those House of Torture matches.
House of Torture, thank you. Yeah, I can only think of
House. What did you say?
No, I said House of Evil, but it's House of Torture. But yeah, I only just associate everything bad with evil. So
and deservedly so.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it rolling here before we wrap up. Let's see. Where does Kenny Omega fit into the trios storyline?
Yeah, I think so. Watching it live last night, I'm curious what you think too. I said this on the post show, but, like, just being there personally, like, I was like, oh, they're going to turn on the Bucks the way it was framed in the ring, just like how they were set up. So seeing that, like, when they came out, I was like, okay, they're either turning on the Bucks. I mean, they're definitely going to turn on the Bucks. It's just, does Hangman come out as was teased last week, or is this a Kenny reappearance to tell that story? And obviously Hangman came out. So to me, this is more of, I don't know Kenny's timeline any more than the next person, but if he's not coming out for this, he's not going to be in a match at All Out. I'm fairly confident of that. And the only thing I can see is maybe he comes out and challenges the winner of the unification match if CM Punk can go. That makes a lot of sense to me. Or comes out 3-4 weeks from now and sets up that pay-per-view. But I think whoever wins that, Kenny will align with the Bucks and Hangman, because he'll come back. He'll be a babyface no matter what. And he has to be, because he's been gone so long. So with the Bucks being realigned as faces, if they don't turn on Hangman in the tournament final, which is always a possibility, that makes more sense to have them as a stable and be the true stable I think we always kind of wanted that we haven't gotten, and have those guys be four well-defined baby faces kind of running roughshod like Blackpool Combat Club is doing currently. I think is a pretty juicy storyline. So that would be my ideal pay-by-numbers storyline that I would do.
Yeah, to answer the question directly, I don't think he does fit into the trios. The trios storyline, I don't think he's going to be a part of. I think Adam Page's presence there eliminates him from being involved directly in that. I could see them, Tyler, your way you booked that out makes perfect sense. I could also see them using this trios kind of feud, between the Bucks and Page and Cole and Fish and O'Reilly. Like, Kenny Omega can come in and face Cole in a singles match. Like that, I think is more how they would kind of tie those two stories together. But to be completely frank, like, Kenny Omega has some bigger business, I think, to take care of in AEW. Like, I think as soon as you can book Kenny Omega against CM Punk, you do it, because you don't know what. Like, look, Kenny Omega is hopefully he's fine when he comes back, but he's got mileage on that body. CM Punk is older, and same thing. Like, if you can get that match booked and in the ring, you do it. I think you do it. I think you do it right away, and because otherwise, you just don't know what will happen.
Yeah, you book.
So I think you got to go there.
You book a pay-per-view with like 7 matches, and you give them an hour or something. You give them 45 minutes, and you just have them do that epic match that you always want to do. One like negative potential booking thing. This is not what I want, but I could see it happening. Is Tony's talked about not bringing the trios titles out until Kenny's available, because it's like Kenny's something he's very passionate about. So all that being considered, you could tell a story where if this is a red herring and maybe Hangman gets attacked the week before the pay-per-view and they need a mystery opponent or a mystery partner to join them in the final, and then Kenny comes out for the pay-per-view. But that kind of sucks. So I'm not advocating that. But that's like one way they could get to that. If I don't know why, if he's not, if he's going to be cleared in time, why he would not just come out and not wrestle until then. But we'll see.
Well, yeah, because if he's cleared in time, I mean, I think you want to
use him.
I mean, you like surprise, right? Like, and promote him.
Yeah, and All Out, I think All Out is going to be like, if he can make another big surprise this year, like we had with Cole and Bryan Danielson last year, I think he'll kind of want to make that a staple gimmick. Yeah. Tony Khan, that is. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really interested to see how that card gets built. I mean, we're not quite. I mean, we're almost kind of on the road there now that we're in August, but.
Definitely post Quake at the lake.
Yeah,
on the lake, like that week after should be a pretty good episode of TV to set up
for sure. Yeah, yep. Okay, let's see. Do the WB cuts will it affect AEW's TV deals?
See, I think Azan meant what he wrote there. I think he was just talking the politics of.
Hey, that makes sense too. Zahn, yep, okay, all right.
I'm just kidding. I saw that and I was like, hey, it works both ways.
It works both ways. Yeah.
But the cuts at Warner Brothers / Discovery, does that affect the TV deals for AEW? So that was the question. Sorry, I cut you off. Zach, you go.
No, that was a question.
You read the question. Yeah.
I mean, yes, I think. I don't. I mean, yes, it will affect them. I mean, I don't know if it'll affect them positively or negatively at this point, but yes, it will. I mean, there's something going on there. There's been lots of rumors about the type of programming that they want to have, and et cetera, et cetera. AEW is not looking to they want a big TV deal, and like based on these cuts and the creative pivot. Who knows if that company is going to want to shell out the money for that? Like, AEW is not going to take a discount here. They've got to hit big on this, and so, but on the flip side, though, you may have this thing where, because the other angle for this news coming out of WB is that they don't want to build their own shows. They don't want to drop money into
Snowpiercer. They don't make Snowpiercer TV shows or whatever, or what's the one show I always get to add, like the Animal Kingdom, something like that.
Right.
So, they don't want to do shows like that anymore.
Yeah, they don't. Right, they don't want to do that, and so a show like AEW could actually have more value depending on what perspective you are looking at it. So I absolutely think it's going to make an effect. Tyler, throw to you, but I just don't know which way.
Yeah, I mean, effect is a broad statement. I don't think it's going to negatively impact AEW from a financial standpoint, because if WB, so the Turner channels, don't want to pay a certain price for AEW, there is somebody out there that wants to, that is on the same level or higher, because no matter what the ratings are bad, but people want sports, right? Like the NFL gets like $12 billion a year between all the partners. The Big Ten, as I talked about on the show here, for football mainly, is going to get there's going to be 16 schools, so they're going to get $1.6 billion a year from TV partners just to show college football and I guess basketball games to a lesser extent. So, and those are getting, college football games get, the peak. What you're looking for there is 4 million right now on like Fox on broadcast, which if you are on cable and you can get the top thing on a weekend night consistently, which is what AEW has been doing, top 1, top 2, top 3. If you can get that 52 weeks a year, I mean, there's such a premium on that for football is great, but you get that that $4 million game, you get that 2 or 3 times for 12 weekends, not the top thing on a weeknight on cable for a certain demo 52 times a year or 48 times, whatever it probably averages out to. But so someone's going to pay for it is the moral of the story. So it might be a negative for the for Warner Brother Discovery Media to not have that product in the portfolio. And I think that might be a part of why, it's everyone assumed like HBO Max would have like an AEW channel on it, but Tony Khan's probably being smart here, not marrying his streaming service to something that he might not re-up his TV deal with long term. So that's kind of the vibe I get.
Well said. Well said. All right, guys. Well, look, we'll put a bow on it right there. Tyler, thanks, man. You'll be on the VIP side of things tomorrow night, post AEW Rampage, a live AEW Rampage.
Yeah.
Which will be probably better for you, I would imagine. You've been down on Rampage, my friend.
Yeah, it looks like a good card. I mean, you got old Mance Warner in the going for the AEW title, so that's always warms my heart. So
yep. Oh, and as Steve said, we do have to address we have to talk G1. Maybe next week we will talk G1.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good time to tell.
Yeah, we'll be about halfway through, so we'll definitely make sure to do that. But yeah, Jonah versus Cobb, thumbs up. Tracy, thanks for checking in. Thank you for listening. We appreciate the support. Appreciate you being here. Go ahead, Tyler. I cut you off.
I was going to say they both better be just like Seth Rollins, already like 7 bottles of water poured on their torsos when we go out there. So when they get the first chops, you get the super megapixel framed in shot of just like
the visual. Yep.
Yeah. That's all I need.
That's what. Hey, that's going to be one hell of a. Or it should be one hell of a match. I mean, it's gonna interest a lot of people. That's for sure. Hazan, Steven, Steve, Tracy, Craig, who else? Dr. Ross and Bryant, Bran. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here live. We'll be back next week, of course, and keep it locked here on the YouTube channel. We got some good content dropping. News just hit the channel, so you can check that out. And we'll be we'll be around. So thank you for your time. Thanks for being here, Tyler. Catch you on the flip side, man.
Yep. See ya.
All right, later.